Welcome to Dual Diagnosis Anonymous. My name is Johnny, and I'll be facilitating this meeting. Can we please take a moment of silence followed by a serenity prayer? God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Welcome to another Friday meeting. I pray that everyone's doing well with everything that's going on in our communities. Today is a special topic that I chose because I wanted to talk about something that we all still struggle with. And first off, let me say hi to my DDA members before I jump into this, because I definitely don't want to leave you all out. My prayers go out to you and the group. Me and my mother was having a conversation the other day, and I went and took her some things, and I looked at her, and every time I go visit her, I always look at her, and checking out her weight and making sure that she's keeping herself together. And I noticed that she had lost a lot of weight. And if anybody know my mother, she always been a exercise fanatic. Even when I was a kid, old as she is now, she still exercised. Kind of make me feel bad sometimes. But that's just her thing. And I noticed her arms, which that's one of the more signatures is our arms. And I noticed that her arms was not as tight as they normally are. And I asked her the question, Mom, do you still be working out? And she said, not since I've been feeling kind of sick. And I was like, okay. I said, well, it's funny that you say that, because I haven't been feeling well myself, and I haven't been working out as well. And I've lost weight in my arms. And the reason I'm sharing that is because when you're consistent in what you're doing, the results are always rewarding. But when you become inconsistent, things start changing. They're not the same anymore. You get out of your routine. I tell the patients the same thing. I did the same group with them this week. And I tell them how when they come to the hospital, we get them on a regimen. They go to the gym, they go to the pool, they exercise, they start eating, they start sleeping, they get their rest, they drink plenty of fluids. They get on these routines, and even though they may not like it, they become consistent in their care or treatment, and they get well. But the problem is, just like me and my mother, when they leave the hospital, they stop doing the things that they was doing while they was in treatment. They start feeling good about themselves, and they don't feel like they need to continue to work a program. But before I went and did that group with them, and I held my mom accountable, and I told her, I said, after we had that conversation, I went back to doing my little morning workouts, my daily workouts before I go to work, because I noticed when I'm consistent in working out, I feel good about myself. But when I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't feel good about myself. And I tell the patients the same thing. If you work out, if you keep doing what you're doing while you're in treatment, you see how it's making you feel. All you have to do is maintain that when you leave here. There's pools that you can go to. There's little gyms you can go to. If you can't afford a gym, just get little curls or get a little something that you can put in your house so that you can maintain your consistency so that you can stay well. So today, that's what I want to talk about, is how to be more consistent. Because like I just said, there's areas that we're consistent in our lives, and then there's areas that we're inconsistent in our lives. And that's what's throwing us out of balance. And those are the things that we need to focus on. So what is consistent? Someone who is consistent always behaves in the same way, has the same attitudes towards people or things, or achieves the same level of success in something. If one fact or idea is consistent with another, they do not contradict each other. What is inconsistent? When there's inconsistency, things are not the same. They're the total opposite. Maybe the biggest problem people have when trying to improve something in their lives is they never take much time at all. Perhaps the second biggest problem is that they don't take consistent action over a longer period of time at all. Being consistent is how we make progress in achieving our goals and having the life we want. Sometimes being consistent can be difficult because we know we want to make progress, but have no clue how to set goals and hold ourselves accountable. I came across this quote by Anthony Robinson, and this is how he said it. In essence, if we want to direct our lives, we must take control over our consistent actions. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives, but what we do consistently. You know, when I read that, I thought about how people make New Year's resolutions. When they make them, they all excited, they all worked up about it, and they actually, most of them start. But after about the first month, they become inconsistent. And they stop doing the thing that they promised that they was going to do. Here are a few ways to help you to be more consistent. Number one, set expectations. Before you can be consistent and make progress, you first have to know what you want. Setting expectations will help you to stay on track and remind you why you started on your journey in the first place. Telling yourself you expect what you expect, you would do it to help when those negative thoughts and opportunities to fall off the wagon appear. Counteract those negatives with 5 positive affirmations each time. Reminding yourself what you would do to stay on track will push you through those tough times. Number 2, make a conscious decision. You have made a conscious decision to work towards a goal, so you need to make a decision to be consistent. This doesn't mean you have to do a ton of stuff every day just to reach a goal, but you need to work on it frequently. The key here is to figure out to figure out that thing you want to be consistent about and how it makes you feel. If you want to work out consistently, how does that make you feel? Understanding your emotions toward it will help you to stay focused and shows up to that thing on a regular basis. Number 3, accountability. Now that you know what you want to show up for it and how it makes you feel, it's time to make a plan. Most of the time we have goals we want to accomplish, and those goals require us being consistent and working on them more often than not. Writing down your goals and breaking down your goal into smaller attainable goals will help you to form a plan to stay dedicated and consistent in your efforts. Short and fast goals will help you to gain momentum and reach that desired end result, no matter what the long-term goal is. Another way to stay accountable is to have a partner in crime. This is someone who will hold you to it when you aren't feeling energized or into the goal. It could be a friend, significant other, a family member. You can help each other find motivation by working on the goal with someone else. It means you have to show up for more than just yourself. Number 4, eliminate negative thinking. Negative thinking is the bane of consistency and of willpower. When you think negatively, you are making yourself less likely to be able to hold to your consistent actions. Pay attention to the negative thought patterns that will hinder you in the future. There are specific thoughts that you have a tendency to run your life. I can't do this. I'm stupid, lazy, I'm a procrastinator, etc., and etc. When you do notice these negative thought patterns, turn them around or introduce a more positive or neutral thought. So for example, if you find yourself thinking, I can't do this, Instead, turn it around and think, I'm going to practice doing this, even if I'm not great at it to start with. Figure out what areas you need to work on to make yourself more likely to be consistent. Everyone has areas of themselves that could do a little work. Perhaps you're really great at being consistent at work, but at home, you're constantly forgetting to do all the things that you need to do. Don't try to do too many things at one time. This has been mentioned before, but it's worth repeating. Sort your different goals out, one or two at a time. If you're trying to finish your manuscript and improve your consistency at work and get into shape, you're going to burn out pretty quickly. Instead, work on improving your work ethic and or writing ethic before adding to your exercise ethic. Remind yourself why consistency is important to you. What is it that you're trying to accomplish by being consistent? What happens if you fail to be consistent? Keep these things in mind when you're trying to accomplish your goals and be more consistent. I just went to the doctor last week because I had been off my medications, and like I said, due to my inconsistency of being able to take my medication due to being out and couldn't get an appointment for a month, my weight became inconsistent. I normally try to maintain a certain weight, but when things are not consistent, like I said before, things start falling apart. It's hard to maintain something when you're inconsistent. So I went to the doctor, and I was just taking my meds once a day. That was easy. I was able to do that. But because of my body being out of whack for so long, he bumped it up to 2 times a day. Well, I work consistently. But working nights is kind of hard. So when I get off in the morning, I take one med. Then when I go to sleep and I wake up to go to work, I become inconsistent because, one, my eating patterns change. I eat right before I go to work, but I have to take my meds when I eat. And so sometimes I forget my meds and I don't get to take my evening dosage. So it's causing me to be inconsistent in my evening meds, even though I'm consistent with my morning meds. Again, you can be consistent in one area of your life, but you can also be inconsistent in another area of your life. So how are you going to correct that, Mr. Johnny? Well, easy. I decided that I'm just going to put my pill bottle in my bag that I take with me to work every day. Then that way, if I forget to take it on my way to work, I can just take it when I get to work. That's going to help me to help me to become more consistent on my evening meds. Again, I never talk about a problem without talking about a solution. And I know that I'm not the only one that's inconsistent in certain areas of my life. I know that there's other people that's inconsistent. People in recovery. They're really vulnerable when it comes to relapse or mental breakdowns or mental relapses due to their inconsistency of working their program. See, when they start out, they're all on fire and they're doing well, as long as they got somebody holding them accountable. But again, they start feeling good about themselves. They don't feel like they need to work the program. So they become inconsistent. And then the next thing you know, they're talking about, I went out and I took a drink. I found myself going back into my depression. I found myself going back and repeating the same old behaviors that I was once doing before. That's what happens when you're inconsistent. You can count on it. It's a guarantee, stamped, sealed, and delivered, that when you become inconsistent, if you're working on yourself and you stop working on yourself, whatever it was that you was working on comes back tenfold. I like telling the story of when I was working the program and I was doing good. I was doing well. I was doing my 4th step. I was working my steps consistently, and I remember I lost focus Someone in my past had gotten sick. And I stopped focusing on me and I started focusing on them. And the next thing you know, everything that I was working on came right back tenfold. And I found myself getting depressed. And then I had to make a major decision. Am I going to be consistent in working on me? Or am I going to go back to acting and behaving the same way that I used to act and behave? And there was a price that I was not willing to pay. So I had to start becoming more consistent in me. So I had to learn the hard way that if I'm going to tell somebody else, if I'm going to help somebody else to get better, then I need to continue doing what I got to do to help me to stay better. I got to keep practicing what I preach. And the only way to do that is you have to be consistent. Whether I tell people all the time, whether you work on yourself or not, I'm going to continue to work on me. I'm not going to stop. Some people, they'll go to church one week and then they don't go to church the next week. They even inconsistent in their spiritual life and their spiritual walk. How can you be a full-time Christian when you're only doing part-time work? If you want to be a full-time Christian, you have to be consistent. That's why a lot of people struggle with their spirituality, because of their inconsistency. Betty Crocker, they summed it up like this. If you look at a Betty Crocker box, it gives you all the directions to make a wonderful cake. Leave out anything, leave out any one of those ingredients. I guarantee you that cake is not going to turn out the same. And I see that in people. The reason why people are still struggling is because they're leaving out the most important ingredients in their life. And one of them is called consistency. When you leave out consistency in your life, you become inconsistent and things don't tend to work out the way that they're supposed to. So I hope that someone got something out of this message of how to be more consistent. Because when you're consistent, you wind up being successful. When you're inconsistent, you find yourself falling short of the goal. So before I close, I would like to close out in our usual way with Just for Today. Just for today, I will focus on my DDA recovery program of the 12 steps plus 5. Just for today, I will remain clean and sober, and if I'm taking medications, I will do so as prescribed. Just for today, I will keep an open mind and be willing to listen to the advice of my DDA support group, my prescriber, and my clinician. Just for today, I would allow myself to have faith in someone in a DDA program who has faith in me and my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I recognize that I may make mistakes along the way, but I will follow the DDA program to the best of my ability. Just for today, I will utilize the DDA program of shared experiences, strength, solidarity, and hope in order to gain a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will not dwell on the past nor place undue concern on the future. Just for today, I will not grant fear or worry space in my thoughts. By choosing to live one day at a time and by following the principles of DDA, I need not be afraid. Just for today, I will see how working an honest program is helping others and allow the blessings of my higher power to flow throughout my life. Just for today, I will allow myself to be me. I will accept myself for whom I am and where I am. I will allow others the same courtesy, that they may be free to grow and that I may be free from the burden of resentment. Just for today, I will live and let live. If I become unable to do this, then I will place trust in my higher power and remind myself to just let go and let God. Just for today, I will live life on life's terms. And by doing so, I will recognize when I need support for symptoms of my dual diagnosis, or when I'm in danger of relapse. I will seek help from the fellowship of DDA, my higher power, my prescriber, and my clinician. Just for today. And again, focus on those areas in your life that you're being inconsistent in, and start being consistent so that you can find balance. Like I say, the program is not for just alcoholics and drug addicts. I work the program because it helps me to keep myself together. It helps me to stay accountable for my actions. It helps me to be able to be honest with myself. It helps me to be able to help others the right way versus the wrong way. And regardless of if other people want to be consistent or not, regardless of if other people want to half do the job, I have no choice but to be consistent in what I'm doing, because if I don't, I already know what's going to happen. So I pray that you all have a blessed Juneteenth weekend, and I pray that everything goes the way you plan them to go. I pray that you take heed to these messages and apply them to your heart and your mind, and allow God to use you to be a blessing to others. I pray that you stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about others, so that we can change these communities, so that we can change the world. So as I close, I'd like to close out with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. Have a blessed weekend.